Hey guys, what is up? Welcome back to my channel. I just wanted to do a little sit down video today because I finished my very last residency interview and it's feeling kind of surreal. We just had a meeting yesterday and we're talking about making our rank list, and I'm just nearing the end of this medical school process and it just feels kind of insane. It just is a time for a lot of reflection and kind of going back and thinking of all the things that I've done to lead up to this point, and I can't even explain the feeling. I feel like it's nervousness, it's anxiety, it's stressful but also really exciting, and I'm like thrilled to go into the field I'm going into. I just feel like I have so many emotions kind of going all at the same time. But since I'm getting ready to put together my rank list, I wanted to kind of do an interview season like recap, just kind of talking about what my experiences were, the ways that I thought about programs, what my priorities were. I'm not really sure if this is going to be helpful. I hope it is for people who are applying and they're thinking about what's going to be important to them. But I just want to put a little disclaimer that like every single person's priorities are completely different. Like the things that I'm going to mention in this video are my individual priorities and the things that I think are most important for me to be successful in residency. And that is so different for every single person. And it's really hard because you want to ask a program director, like, what kind of applicant are you looking for? And what are the things that you think will make a resident successful in your program? And I think that that's a fine question to ask, but it's really not what the program wants from you. It's how you will be successful in said program. And so if a program director is saying like, we want people who are gonna pump out research, and we want people who are going to be involved in the community, or we want people who are gonna be, leaders in the field, those can all be very different pathways for very different people. And so I think it's just important to keep that in mind, especially when you're thinking about where to apply. I know it's really hard to find information about programs online. Going to open houses is probably like the number one thing I feel like changed my entire perspective on interview season. Most of the programs will do something like a virtual open house, and I strongly encourage you, if you're really interested in a program, go to their open house. If you can't make it, most of them are recorded, go watch it on their website. You get such a feel for a program. And for me, it was really important that the program just had like a wholesome feel and a feel where everyone was really family, where everyone got along really well and you could tell they were like bantering with each other. I don't know, this is such a small thing, but if they had a ton of pictures where they're all hanging out, it just gave me like a warm feeling inside that, hey, we actually do hang out and we do love doing things outside of work, even inside of work. If we're just going to get boba, like at least we're spending time together and everyone really enjoys who they're working with. That was so important to me. There was a program that I wasn't gonna apply to at all. Like someone had just mentioned it to me. I was like, I had never really thought about this program, but they're having an open house, so why don't I go? After their open house, I ended up signaling them, and I am actually ranking them number 2. I'm ranking them number 2 on my rank list. Prior to their open house, I wasn't even gonna apply. And so I don't know, I feel like that speaks volumes of how these open houses can really play a role in the place that you might end up for residency. So if places offer them, absolutely go. I know for neurology specifically, they offered them all virtually, but I'm sure some programs and other specialties are probably doing them in person, especially if it's close to your home institution. Like it's kind of worth it to go, drive like an hour or two to go and spend some time with the residents. I think that that's honestly like well worth your time. So I went to a bunch of open houses and I got a completely different feel at all of these programs. I was super nervous going into interview season, thinking that I wasn't going to be able to feel a vibe. I wasn't going to be able to really learn a lot about the program and the types of people that they want in their program and the things that they're looking for and really what their mission is. And I felt like I got a good sense at all of these open houses. And there were programs that were like very high in my mind prior to the open houses. And then I was like, I feel like that was kind of boring, or like they didn't really show a lot about who they are. They just kind of like showed what they had to offer. And I think that those can be two different things. Like one place can have a ton of resources and, anything that you want to do is possible, but you don't really get a feel of like who the people are who work there and who the residents are and who the program leadership is. And so I think it's really important that you get a feel for that, and it's something that you think aligns with your values. And I felt like I got that during the open house, kind of like the open house season into application season. So then I applied to 34 programs total. I had to apply to some prelim programs because some of the programs that I am applying to are advanced only, and so it can be really confusing. There are categorical programs, which for neurology are 4-year programs. You start at your PGY 1 and you go to your PGY 4. There are also advanced programs, and so when a program is advanced, you do a prelim year. You can whether do it at that institution or at a different one, but then your 2nd through 4th year is when you're actually the neurology resident. In your prelim year, you're a part of the internal medicine program. You're not like really integrated into the neuro program through the advanced, and I think that's where it's a little bit different, especially if you end up doing your prelim year somewhere else and then you go to an advanced program in the neuro department. So since a lot of the programs that I was applying to had both categorical and advanced, and then some just had advanced, I also applied to some prelim programs. So programs that were already associated with the school or are just in the general area where I wanted to do the neuro residency. So I applied to 34 total. I ended up getting 13 interviews, and all of them were for the neurology program. And so most of the interviews that I got, if I was applying for the advanced program, the prelim was kind of included. It gets very, very confusing, but I didn't have to do any additional internal medicine interviews. So I didn't have to like meet with the medicine faculty and things like that. There were some schools that offered for you to just like do a meet and greet with the internal medicine residents, but it wasn't like a formal interview process. And so I ended up doing 13 total, and there were probably 8 of them that I like fell in love with. I was like, oh my gosh, I can absolutely see myself here. I absolutely loved the vibe. I loved the people. I loved the program director. Like, it's been so hard to tease out where I love best. I don't even feel like there is a place that I love best. I think it's just taking all of these values, like I was mentioning previously, in my priorities to kind of make it towards the number one place. So I did 13 total. I will say there are 2 programs that I'm just not ranking at all. And I don't know how common that is, but we've gotten a lot of advice, at least from my institution, that's like, if you would rather not match then end up at this program, then you should not put them on your rank list. And we've also gotten like, if this is a place where you feel like you will not succeed, do not put them on your rank list. And so I had 2 places that I interviewed at where I felt like I will not be the best version of myself. I will not train to be an excellent physician, not because the training isn't great, but because I know it does not align with my priorities. And I think that is the most important thing in this entire process, is like making sure that you know yourself and the things that you want out of residency, right? Because I could go to any 13 of the places that I applied to and get excellent neurology training. I have no doubt in that. I think that it's all of the other things in my life that make me feel fulfilled don't align with a couple of programs. And so I'm choosing not to rank 2 of them. I think they're wonderful programs for other people, just not for me. That means I'm ranking 11. And there were 3 that I just felt like, I don't know, all of these programs are amazing. Like, how am I gonna figure this out? I think based on location, which was a very, very big priority for me. I think I basically applied to places based on where they were located. And then I had a few that were out of my location preferences, but I was like, oh, if it's a great program, I'll go there. So the top 3 places that I'm putting on my rank list are places where I really could see myself living. And I think that that's really important, right? So like, I want to enjoy my life outside of the hospital, and I want to be able to have things to do and feel like I am immersed into my community. That's like super important to me. So that's probably my number 1 priority. And then another priority that I have that all 3 of these programs have is that I just want to be in a place that has a lot of patient diversity. Like, I do not want a homogeneous patient population. I want to see people from the highest socioeconomic status to the lowest. I also want to see patients who are of every race and ethnicity. I want to see patients who have no education at all to patients who are highly educated. I just want a huge diverse patient population because that is the world. Those are the patients that I'm going to be seeing, especially when I'm practicing. And so I don't want to see the same patient with the same diagnosis over and over again. And I think that that was just really, really important to me. Like, I want to learn the bread and butter of neurology, but what really excites me about the field is that I can read about a patient, have no idea what's going on with them, and go into the literature and find a case that's very similar similar and see if my patient has the same thing that has already been reported. And a lot of the times the answer is no, and you're like dealing with this thing that's really rare and that has never been heard of before. And I think the zebras are so important to me because it's what keeps me stimulated. It's what's keeping me really interested in the field of neurology. So that was really important to me. I want patients who have basic neurologic conditions, and then I want patients who have super rare ones too. So that diversity was important. And the next thing that was really important to me was education. So like from every single level. So resident education, medical student education. I just want a lot of didactics. I want a lot of time where I'm actually like in the lab practicing things. So then by the time I'm practicing on patients, I know what I'm doing. And I always want to stay up to date at what's going on in the world of neurology. And the way that you get that is through didactics. I love to read on my own, but I also love the idea of having this carved out time during the day where you get together with your colleagues and you all talk about the newest, brightest thing that's in the world of neuro. And I think that is so important. And I really love programs that integrate that into their curriculum. Then another thing that was super important to me is community engagement. And so just a forewarning to anyone who is applying into residency right now, don't be fooled by programs. So many programs talk about like health equity and the work that they're doing in the community and how they're really like putting their feet into the community. And a lot of programs will say that. And then when you ask specific questions about like what resident projects have been done or like how are you actually in the community, a lot of people don't have great answers. So it was really important to me that a program not only said that they were really integrated into the community, but they had programs and resources where residents and students and faculty are actually providing care, providing education, and working with everyone in the community. And that was really important to me. And so as a medical student, I have worked in a free rural community neurology clinic. And that has been literally the most impactful and meaningful thing that I've done all of medical school. I actually volunteered at this clinic prior to medical school, prior to when I got my master's, and then I came back as a medical student. And it's been so profoundly impactful for me that I want to continue something like that into residency. And so programs that have something similar, you know, where they're going out into the community and working with patients who are uninsured, that is just something that was important to me. So I was looking for programs that also practice what they preach. So those were a lot of my priorities. And there were 3 programs that really just spoke to me. They were in a great space, a great environment, had a lot of patient diversity, had a lot of complex cases. And those were really difficult to kind of tease out. I will say I did figure out what my third option was going to be before my first option. So there are 2 programs that feel absolutely equal to me. Like if I went to either program, I would be on top of the moon. I would be very happy. Both of the program directors are incredible. Both of them are in amazing cities. Both of them are really involved in the community. There's so much community engagement from every single level. Both of them have a ton of patient diversity. They see all types of zebras. They're both big academic centers. It was so hard to figure out which one of them is going to be better for me. And I don't actually think it's much of the program. I think it's more of the space and where I'm going to be living that is playing a bigger role for me now. So there are 2 cities that are completely different from each other. They're on different sides of the country. And I think really sitting back and reflecting, what do I want my day-to-day to look like? How am I going to get to the grocery store? Do I have to drive or can I walk? Where am I going to work out? Is it like a fitness friendly city or is it not? Where am I going to live? You know, big cities have a ton of different neighborhoods. And so like choosing where you feel like you would fit in those neighborhoods is also a huge thing. And so it has taken me months at this point to kind of take all of that in and figure out which of the 2 would really be best for me. I do think if I end up at either one of them, I will be so happy. But I did decide and I feel very confident. I also feel like I have done everything as an applicant at this point to match at my number 1 program. And if I don't and I match at my number 2, I will be just as happy. And if I match at my number 3, I will still be ecstatic. And I think that that's part of the process is like like you just put your trust in the match and you hope that it works in your favor. But we're crossing my fingers. I have not put my rank list in yet, but I am soon. It's due in March. So I'm just gonna go with my gut. I know where I'm putting my number 1. My number 2 is absolutely not changing. I love that program too. My top 3 are absolutely like set in stone. They are not changing. Maybe the next few I can like tinker around with, but I'm really hoping I match in my top 3. And nothing is guaranteed. So if you are watching this right now, please cross your fingers and cross your toes for me that I match at my number 1. This was fun. I like doing this little recap because I feel like it helps me reflect on the things that are priorities to me. And it just always reminds me of like where I am in this process, where I started and how I've gotten to where I am. Like I started going to these open houses, not knowing anything about any programs. And then I got to go through this entire interview season and meet some incredible people. Like some of the residents that I met, I feel so privileged to be their colleagues in the future. Some of the faculty that I met, I would be so lucky to train under. I can only hope that one day I will be in a position to make such an impact on an applicant. Like I will remember these interviews and these conversations for the rest of my life. I feel like this has been such a transformational time for me. When a program director starts an interview by saying, "I am so happy you're here. You have accomplished so much and we are so lucky to have you here with us today," it just changes your whole perspective of like, whoa, I can't believe I've accomplished what I have and it's being recognized and that's so wonderful. But also you're talking to me from like this prestigious place. I am lucky to be here and I'm like happy that you've invited me and I would be so lucky to train at the place that you are interviewing me from. And so I don't know, it's just been such a wonderful experience and like it really just allows you to reflect on everything you've done to get to this point. And then it just reminds me of like how lucky I am to be going into neurology, which is such an incredible field. Like everyone is so nice. If you're in medical school right now, if you're in your preclinical years, just know once you get to your clinical years, your neurology rotation is going to be some of the nicest people you have ever met in your life. Like, I don't know, it just brings these people to it that are just curious and creative and they love education and they just want to like build a community of people who all love the same thing. And I think that that has been just something I didn't really think of when I was going into the field. Like I was nervous coming into med school thinking everything was going to be so competitive. And then I found this field where I just truly fit. And going into this interview season and the whole application process has just reminded me that this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. Not me about to get emotional. But it's just like it's so incredible. And I feel really lucky to be here and I'm feeling so freaking excited for match day. And I just feel so privileged to be able to do what I do. So anyways, enough of the sappiness. I hope you guys like this week's video. I love just kind of sitting here chatting with you guys and talking about medicine, talking about my experiences. If any of you are also going through the application process and going through interview season and are about to make your rank list, good luck. If you're going into neurology, I literally cannot wait to be your colleague. And if you're not going into neurology, best of luck wherever you go. Hopefully you end up at your number 1 place. And if you are in your preclinical years, I promise you the time will fly by. You will be here before you know it. And just don't forget to take everything in, because once you get to 4th year, you just look back at everything and you're like, wow, that really happened. I am here now. And if you are thinking about going to medical school, I don't know, maybe I'm just in a great mood right now. But I think it is so worth it. And I feel so lucky to be in the position that I'm in. I remember before medical school, I was literally crying, sobbing, wailing, like wanted to be a doctor so bad. And then in 3rd year of med school, I was like, why am I doing this? Do I even want to be a doctor? And now that I'm a 4th year, I am just reminded that all of it is worth it. And at the end, you get to practice medicine, you get to treat patients, you get to be there for people in the most vulnerable times of their life. And once you remind yourself of that, you remember how lucky you are. So anyways, that's it. Thank you for watching this week's video. I'm so happy you guys are here. I have really enjoyed editing these videos. So if you liked it too, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and please subscribe. We are building such a beautiful community here. Every time I get a new subscriber, I go and look at your page and I'm so happy that you've joined me. I'm happy we get to go through this journey together. So I will see you guys next time. I'm currently filming a week in my life vlog, and it features Marcos and Valentine's Day. So stay tuned for that, and until next time.